song lovers online.
Yes, here we are on a very cold day today.
And it's a little chilly in the parish house too.
Yeah, just a little bit.
And if you hear that hum that comes in occasionally, we're thankful for that. We're not gonna rid that of the sound because that's a heater.
Yes, yay.
We like heaters.
You go heater. So we've got 4 hymns for us today to look at, and the very first one is from your hymnal 82. It's number 635, If Thou But Trust in God to Guide Thee. And this poetry was written by a German fellow by the name of, I think you pronounce it Georg Neumark. Very German, yes. 1621 to 1681. His goal was to graduate from the University of Königsberg. So, because it was the only university not disrupted by the 30 Years' War, which was going on between France and Germany. For 30 years.
Yeah.
They managed to go. But, and this gentleman has so many things that happened to him that were really kind of sad. The first of which was on the way to that university, his caravan was plundered by robbers. And they took all of his possessions except his prayer book and the money that he had decided very judiciously to sew into his clothing.
Right.
So
now
here,
we do the money belts, but
exactly.
So
So he had nothing. Anyway, so he found no employment in Magdeburg or Lernberg or Vincent or Hamburg, but eventually became a tutor to a fellow by the name of Judge Stephen Henning, or he was a judge. And it was at this time that he wrote this hymn. So he did save enough money to return to school finally at the University of Königsberg, where he studied law and poetry. But then he lost all of his possessions in a fire.
it's like, what else is going to
I
happen?
know, this poor fellow. So he left in 1648 and spent some time in Warsaw, Thorn, Danzig, and again in Hamburg, and eventually ended up in Thuringia, where he also had a post at Weimar.
At Weimar.
Yes, in Weimar, where he became the court poet, the librarian, and the registrar to Duke Wilhelm II of Saxe-Weimar, and that's where he stayed until he died. He also became secretary to the ducal archives, and this is interesting, was admitted to the Fruit-Bearing Society, which is the most significant literary society of the time in Germany. So, Neumark said, upon landing the job with Judge Henning and writing this hymn, this good fortune, which came so suddenly and, as if fallen from heaven, gladdened my heart so that on that very day I composed to the honor of my beloved Lord the here and there well-known hymn, Wer nur den lieben Gott lasst walten, which is this hymn. And I had certain cause enough to thank the divine compassion for such unexpected grace shown to me.
Isn't that nice?
Yeah. So translated, Wenn nur den lieben Gott lasst walten means he who allows dear God to rule him or guide him. So. The original poem had 7 verses, so
Yes, indeed.
we only have 2.
We have 2, and I don't know why we only have 2. In fact, what we have is verse number 1 and verse number 7.
That's right. Yeah, Cliff gave me a copy of all 7 of these, and a lot of these verses are very nice.
They're lovely verses.
They really are, and in some ways it kind of speaks to what's going on today, about how if we just have patience and trust that everything's going to come out okay in the end.
Right.
So it was. So anyway, the tune is also named Wer nur den lieben Gott, and it was also composed by him. And this is also a tune that Bach used many times in numerous different works. He actually used it in 8 cantatas, and he also based 7 organ chorales on it. So works. He really liked this tune.
Yeah.
So here we go.
And I guess we're not doing 7 verses.
No, we'll do 2.
We'll do the 2 which are in
The 2 which we have in our hymn.
All right, here's the original.
Hello, all. One of my favorite hymns is For the Beauty of the Earth. We sang it at our wedding 45 years ago. It was especially for the third line, which is for the joy of human love, brother, sister, parent, child, friends on earth and friends above, pleasures pure and undefiled. I never met Peter's parents. They were both dead by the time we found each other. So it was especially important to me to include everyone. Thank you, Cliff. Bye.
Our next hymn is a favorite of many, For the Beauty of the Earth. This is in hymnal 1982, number 416. It was written by Folliot Sanford Pierpoint. He was born in Spa Villa, Bath, Somerset, England.
Yeah.
He was a classics master at Somersetshire College. He wrote 3 volumes of poetry, contributed hymns to the Churchman's Companion, the Hymnal Noted, and Lyra Eucharistica. This text was intended for use at the Eucharist, but it was included in Lyra Eucharistica with the heading, The Sacrifice of Praise. And I think the reason he wanted it if I remember, the reason he wanted it for a Eucharist hymn is Christ our God, to thee we raise this, our hymn of grateful praise. I think that was the phrase that stuck with him.
Right.
This has been widely used as a children's hymn, a favorite for flower services in England. I didn't know this. On the 4th Sunday in Lent, it's considered Mothering Sunday. Children would present their mothers with bouquets of wildflowers they picked the day before. Isn't that sweet?
Nice.
Isn't that
Yeah.
sweet?
That is nice.
Yeah. And this, so I was looking up the tunes for this thing. Do you know there are 26 listed tunes?
Good heavens.
It appears in something like 500 hymnals, and of those 500 hymnals, there are 26 tunes. I thought, well, golly, this cannot be.
Wow.
We have one tune in the 1982 hymnal. At the bottom of the page, it says alternative tune, Dix.
Yes.
So Dix is the one that we're going to choose.
Yes.
I went back to the 1940 hymnal to see what the tune was. That's a different tune than we
There are
have in 82.
2 different ones, aren't there? Or is it just
There's
one?
only one,
Okay.
and then it says alternative tune, Dix.
Yes. Yes.
And Rod is the person who asked for this one. So
Okay.
I asked her, so what tune? Because there are many, and she said, Dix. So that's the
about
one
that?
that we'll use today. And Dix was written by a gentleman named Konrad Kocher. He was a German. He went to St. Petersburg as a tutor. He studied the works of Haydn and Mozart, and he decided on a musical career. Settled in Stuttgart in 1811, and he became friends of Muzio Clementi. So Clementi encouraged Kocher to do further study in Rome. That's where he studied the choral works of Palestrina. He founded a school of sacred song in Stuttgart to further the cause of serious choral singing. And as a result, interest spread throughout Württemberg. 2 years after the founding, Kocher published a treatise on church music, Die Tonkunst in der Kirche. He was the organist choir master of the Stiftskirche from 1827 until he retired 1865. The original tune, this was the original tune for Treue Heiland, Wir sind hier. The tune was shortened, it was added to this text, and it first appeared in the original version of Hymns Ancient and Modern, 1861.
How about that?
If you know of any antiquarian book people, I would like to have a copy of Hymns Ancient and Modern, 1860. I bet I could find it in
yeah.
facsimile.
You might be able to, sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I listed tune names on your handout, so go ahead and read through that. These are all different tunes that were used for this text.
Well, and the first one that you've listed is actually the one that's to the words in the hymnal 416.
Right.
Which I will have to confess, I thought that's the one we were singing. I didn't read it well enough, so I'm now going to be flipping back and forth. But I do know the other tune.
All right, here we go. We have too much fun doing this.
How many verses are we doing? Well, I don't know. Let's do 4.
Okay.
I mean, 4 verses. And I'll do 1, 2, 5, and 6.
Okay, that's good.
How about that?
That sounds good. Here's your intro.
Okay, so our third hymn, we are going to take out of Wonder, Love, and Praise, and it is number 764, Taste and See. It's a very familiar hymn to this congregation. Written by a gentleman by the name of James Moore Jr. from La Crosse, Virginia. He studied at Virginia State University in Petersburg, Virginia, and also at the Virginia Commonwealth University in Richmond, also the College of Conservatory of Music at the University of Cincinnati.
Nice
So
college, that is.
that's a very good conservatory. So he's well schooled. He took piano and conducting, and this is interesting, in 1984 he moved to Vienna, Austria. And he's still there, evidently, teaching voice, piano, and conducting. So anyway, this particular hymn was written in 1982 for the 25th anniversary of the ordination of a Reverend Paul Relling. Is that how you pronounce it?
Sounds good.
Pastor of St. Agnes Catholic Church in Cincinnati, where he had served as a musician. And at first it was self-published, but then the publishing company GIA took it over when he conducted the Chicago Archdiocesan Choral Festival in 1984. So they must have really liked it, saw the potential, and now it's been sung all over the world, including for the Pope's visits to the United States and Australia.
Mm-hmm.
The tune is called Taste and See, no surprise there. Also written by Moore, and it's actually intended for cantor and congregation. The first part is kind of like an antiphon, which the congregation sings, the taste and see part. And then the verses are what the cantor would do. So it really is not a very good congregational hymn.
It's not.
Mainly because it's hard to put all those words and get them right the way they were written. It's another one of these things where the soloist or the cantor would have a little leeway with how he put the words in, and congregations would not be quite as exact. So I think it can be a little confusing sometimes.
Absolutely.
The message behind it, though, is very nice and
It's beautiful.
is
Psalm
quite popular.
Psalm 34 all the way.
Yeah. So
And this is a common, in Catholic congregations, it's very common to have a cantor,
yes,
and then the congregation responds.
yes.
So this would actually maybe have been done, since it is a paraphrase of Psalm 34, it may have been done in place of Psalm 34.
Right.
And then the antiphon, like you say, would be that refrain,
Uh-huh.
and then a cantor would do the rest.
Cantor would come in. Yeah, it would fit very well within the scope of the service that way.
Mhm.
Yeah.
We should try.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
All right, here's your intro.
Taste and see, taste and see, the goodness of the Lord. Oh, taste and see.
here's our fourth and final hymn for the day. Boom, boom, boom. This is All Glory Be to God on High, hymnal 1982, number 421. And I rather like this one. I put this one in because it's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
So
I like
to
it
do
too.
that.
It's a nice, that Baroque dance tune,
It
right?
is.
Or Renaissance, I guess it's
The
more.
Renaissance too. Yeah, the Renaissance rhythms and all that.
Uh-huh.
So this is Nicolaus Decius, 1485, roughly somewhere around there, to 1541, also not quite sure. Some sources say 1546, some say 1541. Who knows?
Who knows?
He was a Bavarian. He was a monk and then became the prior of a Benedictine nunnery.
Oh my.
He went to Braunschweig in 1522 as the master for St. Catherine and Egidian school. How do you say that?
I'm not sure.
And
I think Aegidian would
and
know.
by that time, Braunschweig, so he had gone to school in Braunschweig, and by the time that he returned, Braunschweig had become a Reformation town.
Oh my.
So here he is, he's a monk,
Yeah.
Benedictine, it's a Reformation town. So what's he do?
Oh.
He joins the Reformation.
Well, there you go.
In 1523, he studied theology at Wittenberg University. He became a Lutheran pastor and cantor, and he made metrical settings of portions of the Mass.
How about that?
This is the setting of the Gloria in Excelsis Deo.
So I have a question.
Yes.
Did Braunschweiger come from Braunschweig?
No,
It's a
I-
sausage.
Maybe. Any culinary people out there want to attack that one?
Oh well,
Yeah.
sorry.
So, and this is something that I think was really fascinating with the Reformation, starting with good old Martin Luther, that one of his big goals was to get the Mass out of Latin and get it into the vernacular. So many of the parts of the Mass, Luther had already translated into the vernacular and then set to music. So here is Decius, and he studied theology 1523. By that time, the Reformation is well underway.
Oh, yes.
I think
In full
Luther was
swing.
writing Mighty Fortress around 23, going through translating Psalms and Bible and all these things into the vernacular. So I think it's fascinating that they did this. So for the first time ever, many people understood what the heck all that stuff was that they were
That
singing.
mumbo jumbo that they were doing up there at the
Yeah.
altar. Yeah.
Yeah. The tune is Allein Gott in der Höhe, which is also by Decius. It's based on a 10th century chant setting of the Gloria in Excelsis, the setting that was used at Easter. And this was first sung on Easter Day, April the 5th, 1523.
How about that?
How cool is that?
That is cool. This is another hymn tune that Bach liked. He did a lot of organ chorale preludes based on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good stuff.
So there are 3 verses, and since that holds all of the glory, let's do
We'll
it.
do all 3.
Yeah. Here is your short introduction.
Okay. All glory be to God on high, and peace on earth from heaven, and the God's good will unfailingly be to all people given. We bless, we worship you, we
that takes a Gloria
Mhm.
and sets a dance tune with it,
I
and
know.
it becomes that song of praise that we should sing.
And it's really cool. Yeah, it is cool.
Yeah, it
'Cause
is.
It's a dance.
It's a
praise.
joyful, upbeat thing. It's
Yeah.
not, oh, glory be to
Oh, I know.
It's got this bounce and this
It
little.
really is. It's very
It
nice.
reminds me of a priest I worked with once who said that liturgy should be fun.
Yeah,
And if it's not, you're doing it wrong.
good words to go by.
I don't know how that works in Lent.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So here we are at the end again,
Here we are at the end.
and time to sing our little blessing for you.
And we hope that you're well. We hope that you're healthy and happy and warm on such a cold day as today.
Yes. My hands are freezing.
I am generally freezing.
Okay. God be with you. God be with you. God be with you till we meet again. By His counsels guide, uphold you, with His sheep securely fold you. God be with you. God be with you. God be with you till we meet again.
Peace.
God's peace, everyone.